Alright, it's 9 o'clock in the morning on June 21st. I stayed up about 1 o'clock in the morning watching TV, of all things. I don't know why. I get in a room and I'm like, I'll get productive stuff done first, and then I'll be like, well, I'm here, I should watch the TV. And I get hooked on, Law and Order or something like that. Yeah, it happens. So, now I didn't want to get up in the morning and ate a whole jar of peanut butter, as we do. Yeah. Now, this is the hard thing, is like when I'm camped, I would just peel off a couple things that I need and I don't unpack the entire trailer. I found that, well, I had to find a few things, and it's easier to get it in if it's not fully loaded, and a couple things like that. So, yeah, stuff is spread out everywhere. Plus, with all the stuff I ended up buying, then I was a little bit short on cash, so I didn't have. I still spent $20 on groceries, but I got bananas, I got bread, this was kind of fun. This is peanut butter with honey in it. That actually tasted really good. I didn't even know that existed. I've seen peanut butter with jam in it, but that was pretty good. Got some bananas, got the bread, a package of cookies, package of crackers. And okay, so that was the cost of an 18 pack of Cliff Bars. So that gives me a little bit more variety, but it does take up a lot more space. So I went through the peanut butter and I made all sandwiches and then stuck them back in the bag. And I think they do this wall just to screw with people on YouTube. So now I gotta not get that in the background. That I noticed in last night's video, every time that wall got into the shot, my face completely went purple or something like that. It's like the auto tracking white balance feature on the camera is like struggling. It's like, oh wait, yeah. I'm kind of experimenting on this year. The whole purpose of this year was to experiment for how to do things for next year and going forward, if I could sustain this. And a lot of my life, I have resisted any kind of food prep or cooking. Somebody mentioned MREs in a recent comment. Yeah. Peanut buttered out. I could eat MREs, or I could eat, something simple. When I was working in Austin, quite often on the way home, I'd hit Little Caesars pizza, and yeah, I just grab a couple pizzas, take them home, eat them, fine. I could do that 5 or 6 days a week because they were really cheap and I didn't care, right? Yeah. I'm not that person that needs a bunch of different varieties and stuff like that. I have gone weeks where my main source of food was Cliff Bars, and yeah, I'm good with that. When I was at home, to keep the costs down, I'd put the slow cooker on with some beans, make some rice in the evening, maybe dump a can of chili in there. Good. Okay. I'd eat the same thing every day for 3 weeks. No change. Just, that's good enough. I don't like the time spent preparing a meal. If I had a can of chili, I'd just pop the can, eat the chili, maybe wash off the spoon. I'm done. So especially when I'm on the road. So I guess, a long way of saying that is going the rest of the trip now. I think what happened is I was in the mode of, this isn't going to work. Hang on. I'm going to change this up again. Okay, this is just gonna suck. Sorry. I just gave up. I don't want to deal with this anymore. So yeah, I guess what I'm getting my head around is I'm at a transition point right now. I'm going to go with the assumption that I just don't have the money that I had on the first half of the trip, and what can I do with that? When I was at home, I was eating beans and rice. It was really cheap. I mean, and the thing is, I could buy 20 pounds of beans and 20 pounds of rice because I was at home, and I could cook a little bit every day. And my total budget for the month was about $200, something like that. I can't do that on the road, I don't think. But if I could get a loaf of bread like I did, $3 a loaf, a little jar of peanut butter, eat that for 2 or 3 days. The thing is, though, is what I'm looking at is energy density. That Cliff Bar, I can ride for 2 hours on a Cliff Bar, and it takes me half a loaf of bread to get to the same food value, I think. So that just takes up more room, and I don't have more room on the bike. So I guess where I'm trying to get through is, if I did say, all right, today I sat there and I made a whole loaf of peanut butter sandwiches, okay. And in the hotel room, that was not too hard to do. I had the phone playing YouTube videos that I wanted to watch anyway, and I was just making sandwiches, and I'm like, okay, that's good. Am I going to want to do that on the side of the road? I'm not sure. So I'm just trying to look at my options and what can I change and still make it home, I guess. Another angle that I was looking at, I kind of did this yesterday. I don't have a specific miles per day that I have to make anymore. And this is what I just was realizing in the last week. I had to be at San Francisco in time for that Sun Trip race. And I had a bunch of things that I figured were going to break, and some things did break. And I left pretty early to give me enough time to get there. And it worked out good. I got there about a week early. The last week I was on the road, I was slowing down. Okay. The other thing, and this kind of goes with that, with the current setup, and especially when I get the new motor back online, by the time I get up to Washington State, my new controller should be there, and that'll give me some different options. One of the guys that I was riding with was talking about this. He's like, well, okay, so you got an option. You could go, a lot of the guys in the European Sun Trip races, they wouldn't leave camp until 9:30 or 10 in the morning. So they'd sit around quite a while and let the battery fully charge, and the sun was higher. And then they could just run really fast, 20 or 30 miles an hour during the peak part of the day, or they could just go flying up the hills because they had enough power to burn. And they'd get into camp 4 o'clock in the afternoon and shut down. And, so they could go, in theory, they figured they could go faster for 4 to 6 hours a day, and then just sit there and let everything recharge, and then they could do maintenance and they could rest. And I've been doing it the other way. Because I had a smaller system, I was leaving earlier, riding a little bit slower, and riding for 8 or 10 hours a day, which just wears you out. But you still end up going probably the same distance. So if I could sprint and then just park early, I could maybe go just as far, and I don't have to go a specific miles anyway. Okay. So that's something I got to get my head around. I haven't quite answered that question yet, but it's just something that I just realized that, well, okay, yesterday I only went 30 miles. I was actually in town by 1 o'clock. All right. By the time I got to the Walmart, I think I was here by 1 or 12 or something. I honestly was looking, and I was like, well, should I even stop? I mean, I had to stop and get the new tires for the trailer, which I still haven't put on. I don't want to do that inside. So I might, the tire that's on there with the tape is still working. I might run another day and then change it in camp instead of in a parking lot kind of thing. I hate working where I got people walking around looking at me. So, yeah. Just bothers me. So I guess I'm at the point now I can look at things and change it a little bit. I'm not sure what exactly is going to change, but if I didn't, say for instance, okay, I still wake up at 6 anyway. I'm starting to wake up pretty early because I've been going to bed really early, except for last night. So what could I do if I woke up at 6 and just spent 3 or 4 hours in camp, not really doing anything? I'd be sitting there, so I'd be bored. So for me, I end up hitting the road early because I get bored. Okay. Well, if I did have something productive to do in the morning, okay, maybe I'd sit there and, make sandwiches or something like that. I mean, that's not going to take 4 hours, but I'd have to really change how I looked at my day, and I'm not sure what that means yet, but I don't know. It's just kind of like, well, now's the time to start playing with different options. It also really depends on the terrain. Okay, so if I know I'm going into the mountains, yeah, maybe I would sit in camp until 9 or 10. That worked out really good the last couple days where I had the big hills. When I hit that 5,000 foot hill a couple days ago, I got to the base of the hill by I think 10 o'clock in the morning. That was really close to ideal. The sun was high enough that I was getting a lot more sun energy. The sun is more intense when it's right above you, and that really does work with the solar panels, especially with my panels being flat. If the sun is straight up and the panel is flat, that's ideal. Early morning, you're getting way less efficiency. Okay. So yeah, that kind of worked out. The big hill, I ended up walking up most of it anyway because it was just way too steep with my little motor. Part of that, when I have the big motor, the big motor can use way more power faster, so I could burn through my battery really quickly. So that's kind of a negative. But if I do give myself, well, okay, I can turn it down. So that's one of the things I experimented with the last day that it was working, is I was able to turn the big motor down to about the same power level as the little motor, and the battery then lasted longer. Okay, so that's really kind of cool. You can actually dial it down. Okay. So that would give me the option. If I had the big hill, I could just say, okay, I'm going to make, I'll turn the power up. I'll go blasting up the hill. I get to the top. I'll stop. Let the solar recharge for an hour if that's what it takes, and then turn the power back down. Plus, I'd have regen, so usually if you go up a hill, you come right down the other side. Okay, so that would work out. But if I had more speed, I could go faster, get up the big hill, and I could cover what used to take me 10 hours. I could cover it in 4 or 5 hours. That pretty much works out, actually. And then I could just sit in camp or whatever. Just a completely different way of looking at it, I guess, that I hadn't really fully appreciated until this last week when I had time to think about it. So, yeah. Do I need to cover more miles in a day? I don't think so. I set up my route originally thinking, well, as long as I get back to Texas before winter. Okay. Now, I might just take the shortcut and get back sooner and maybe not worry about it as much. Another part of that, if I do take the shortcut, get back, then take the rest of the year and rebuild a better system for next year, build it around the bigger motor, I could make a battery that was more appropriate to that. And if I have a really big battery and a smaller solar system, okay, so like I got the 2 panels now, stay with that. Maybe like right now I'm running 2 batteries. What if I ran 3? So I'd have 2 panels, 3 batteries, big motor. Okay. What that would give me, if my solar panel was a little bit on the small side, I would have more efficiency in the wind, and it would be sized a little bit smaller. But if I when I'm parked, I could deploy the bigger panel, sit there for 2 hours in peak sun, get really good charge, and then fold it back smaller so I have less air drag, and then just run on the battery instead. That kind of makes sense, right? Because if you have a really big panel, it has drag the entire time you're running. But if you could deploy a big panel, there might be an advantage to that. Normally I wouldn't want to go fast, because the faster you go, the more aerodynamic drag you have. So if you slow down a little bit, it's more efficient. There might be a possibility, though, kind of do a transformer setup so when I'm parked, deploy all the panels, and then when I'm ready to go, fold them all down and just leave one exposed. Don't rely as much on being able to get as much of a charge when I'm running, but because I do have the batteries, I can make a bigger battery and then just go further, and then when the battery is dead, then I stop, and and after a while I have a really good idea how far can I go in a day, and then I could do a little more trip planning, because right now it's so all over the place. And that actually might make sense thinking about it, because I'm just kind of just tooling this in my head right now. Battery performance is pretty consistent. If I said I'm going to drive 10 miles and go up a 4% grade, and so I'm going to start at 1,000 feet and I'm going to end at 4,000 feet or whatever, right? That, if I looked at my performance, I should be able to calculate, or at least guesstimate, yeah, I should be able to make it from here to here on this much battery. Okay. Sun isn't always consistent, because if you get a little bit of a cloud, you lose a little bit of solar. It doesn't take very much. So I'm looking at this from 2 points, I guess. If I'm doing the sun trip, especially the coast to coast race, if they do that next year, you're looking for actual how far can you go in every day, and you keep pushing that as far as you can. If you had a point-to-point rally or event like we had this year, you could scale your system saying, I'm never going to go more than 100 miles in a day. And you could maybe scale down the solar and just scale up to batteries. That might actually be practical. I don't know. Different way of looking at it. So if you went fast, get to where you're going, park, get all the panels out, let it solar charge. Then you spend time. You could go run down to the store. You could buy a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter, make yourself a lunch. Do stuff like that. The two things that I don't have on this trip that I probably should have, and I'll look at that a lot harder next year, a tent and a stove. I was so heavy on all the things that I chose to bring that the stove and the tent just was over the top. Okay. But like some of the guys that I've talked to were saying, as your bike and your system gets more reliable, you don't need as much tools, right? And I've seen guys do really long rides, and like you don't even carry a tire pump anymore. And that just seems very strange to me, but on the Rusty bike, I used the tire pump 90% of the time because I was breaking spokes, and so I had to take the tire off the wheel to replace the spoke and then pump the tire back up. I had very few flats once I changed to the better tires. Okay. I'm almost scared to say it because I'll jinx myself, but the new, like the Marathon tires, or the other ones are, I forget what they call them, flak jacket, I think. They're very good. I get very few flats on those compared to what I was getting on the cheaper mountain bike tires. They were getting flats every day practically. So, okay, one example. I could get away with probably carrying half as many spare tubes as what I have right now, because I just really don't get that many flats compared to what I'm used to when I was back on the ranch. A lot of the heavy tools that I have, I'm not using as much now. Now, if something just radically breaks, like if the trailer just breaks in half and I have to figure out how to fix it, it would be nice to have some of this stuff again. but there's a lot of the stuff that I have that I'm not using the way I was in the beginning even. So if I well, it's like, okay, some of the guys building trailers, they were using aluminum parts and carbon fiber, right? Very strong, very lightweight, pretty durable. Um, so with what I've learned on this trip, yeah, I could make a much better system that would be lighter, stronger, more durable, more reliable. Okay. So next year could look entirely different. And with bigger batteries and with better solar and the bigger motor. Um, what if I ended up with, I mean, if I had a lightweight system, like what I should have had in the first place? What if I had a system that if I needed to, I could do 100 miles in a day, which I've never yet hit? I've done 70-mile days a couple times. Okay. So if I get it all optimized so we can do a 100-mile day, that would mean I could do a really easy 60-mile day. Okay. So maybe that should be the goal. Um, and just kind of build the system around that, like this is what it should have been. I guess one of the things I have to remember, the reason I had so much trouble in the beginning, the last year before I went on the trip, I spent most of my time trying to get batteries to work because I didn't want to spend the money to get the batteries I should have had in the first place. So now that I have the good batteries that I should have had in the first place, that whole time I could devote to a better system. There was a lot of problems on the one-wheel trailer that I easily could have solved. I just didn't have time because I was still messing with the batteries. And if I didn't have the batteries, I couldn't go on the trip. Okay. Yeah. So thinking about it like that, the next trip should be a lot easier than this trip. So with lessons learned, and like I was talking yesterday, is I've got a bag full of clothes that I only wear a couple of what are in there. I've got, the silver shirts, not the cotton shirts, but the polyester or whatever they are. I can easily wear those 2 or 3 days, and then now when I start seeing a stream, I could just jump off, wash my shirt off in the stream, hang it up, let it dry for a little bit, and it'll be good the next day again. So I could stretch less clothes much longer than what I thought I could. Another part of that, if I hadn't have left so early in the year, I could have really cut down on my cold weather gear. Although here in Northern California, the last night I was in the motel, but the night before, I still slept with my jacket on in the sleeping bag. It was down into the 40s overnight. So maybe I don't need as much quantity of stuff, but if I did have, I've got a good fleece, I've got a good jacket, I've got the sweatshirt and sweatpants. Okay, so I could layer up a little bit, but I don't need 8 pair of socks and 8 pair of underwear because I can do laundry once a week. And I usually ended up stretching things a couple days because if you didn't get a shower that day, there's not much sense putting on clean socks and underwear because you're just dirty anyway. So clean up a little bit when you can, and yeah, just weird things like that. But water filter. I carried water filters, 2 different kinds, through the desert and never once used them because I didn't find any water that I could filter. If I found water, it was in a store and it was ready to drink, so you didn't have to filter it, or it was in a campsite and it was safe to drink. But I'd never once really found a stream that I looked at as like, I could fill up a water jug there. It just didn't happen. Now that I'm on the West Coast where I've got streams, I'm constantly seeing streams, yeah, I could walk down with a life straw and drink water. Well, I got tired of carrying the filters because I wasn't using them, so I think they're up at my dad's house. I mailed a bunch of stuff out that I didn't use, right? So if I think about it, it's like if I carried the water filter, if I had the stove, I could boil water if I needed to. which is something I didn't do in the first half of the trip. But now in the second half, maybe I could. No real answers, but just a lot more questions. But a lot of the improvements I can't do now because I've got the batteries. I keep talking about those, but I've got these really heavy batteries. I mean, they're heavy because I've got so many of them. I don't need all of them for the trip, but I've got them. I can't really safely ship them home, I don't think. So I'm like, well, I've got them. I don't want to throw them away. They have, they're very expensive. They're definitely worth keeping. So it's worth, the penalty to get them home, because then I can use them for other projects. So I'll just, bucket up and it'll be okay. But having the extra batteries means I really don't want to carry, a little stove doesn't weigh very much, but my trailer's just about full. And it's literally going to be the camel that broke, or the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't want to add any more weight to it than I have to right now. So that was one of the thoughts. This I might experiment with when I'm up at my dad's house, because there's a really good bike shop there. I know there's other ones, but I'll be sitting still for a while there. If I could get a cargo rack system to fit my bike, I could move a lot of the weight off of the trailer onto the bike. That's something I think I would like to make an investment in there. Then the trailer would have less drag because it's lighter. Those little tires would last longer because it doesn't have as much weight on it. The bike can easily handle the weight, more easily, I think. So then I'd still have aerodynamic drag on the trailer, but way less rolling resistance drag. I think that would be a good trade-off. So that's one improvement that I think I could make fairly easily. Not necessarily inexpensively, but at least easily. So unless we decide we can fabricate something, which might be an option, because I probably have access to my brother's shop, and he's got welder and stuff like that. So maybe, that doesn't have to be carbon fiber. I just want it to be strong enough. Even if I could take the sleeping bag off of the trailer and put it on the bike, that would free up a lot of space in the trailer. That might be worth doing. Also, if I could move a gallon of water onto the bike, a couple 2-liter water bottles would move the weight off of the trailer. Would actually probably help. Yeah, anyway. I could probably let that one go like that. In fact, maybe I will. I'm just going to upload that as my daily video, and then I still have to get out of here. Yeah, I got time, but I have to make sure I check out on time. Yeah, I'm not sure, which way I'm going to go yet. I know I'm going towards, anyway, Oregon. I said it yesterday. I can't remember where I'm going now. I know where I'm going. I just don't know the name. Anyway, if I make it there today or tomorrow, great. And then I'm going to probably cut across towards Klamath Falls area and go up 97, and I should be at my dad's house in probably a week. So, yeah, whatever. Once I get moving, I'll be fine. All right? Yeah, anyway. Guess that's it for now. I think the next thing I'm going to do is get the trailer outside, or get the bike outside, park it in the sun, let it top off. It's got like 50 volts. That's the best I've seen for quite a while already, so it'll be completely charged when I roll it out. If I get out of here I'll probably get rolling by 11. That'd be a pretty late start, but then I can run faster because I've got a full charge. Get as far as I can. Okay, that'll be fine. If I get 5 hours in, great. I'll just do a fast run and then park and let it charge again. So, yeah. Yeah, I woke up this morning and I just looked around and I was like, almost like information overload or decision overload. I'm like, I just I didn't want to deal with it. I'm like, it's so much stuff. I don't even know what to do. So get the bike out of the way and then I can function, I guess. Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Camping is easier. It's less of this. It's less awkward. This seems weird, but anyway, that's it for now. As always, thanks for watching the videos and clicking on the like and the subscribe. And if you got money, throw it at me. I'll find something to do with it. That seems to be the ongoing thing. So next year, lower burn rate. That's the biggest hope. Is if I can cut my expenses down next year, anything I can think of in the meantime to make that happen will be a huge improvement. Anyway, thanks for putting up with my shenanigans, and stay tuned. We've done the hard stuff. I think the rest should be easier. I mean, we've learned a lot of lessons, right? Hopefully. All right, bye.